Oh, there's no on this? Okay.
Hey, I'm back.
Oh, yeah.
So good to see you guys. It's been a long day today. We're gonna have a different style of panel. I told these lovely ladies up here that we're gonna do kind of the talk, the view, and a little and live in color mixed in. So we're gonna have a good time. This panel is about trends in diversity. We have now gotten to a point in tech where we can have trends. Things are happening, things are changing, the conversation of diversity is changing, and so we want to talk about what was and what will be. So let's start off. You guys want to introduce yourselves maybe? Or
Sure.
I mean, you guys can, I'm assuming you all can read, but we'll probably tell you a little bit more than that. Let's go, LaFawn.
All right. So I'm LaFawn Davis. I actually run culture and inclusion at PayPal, but I've been in the D&I industry for a little over a decade. Used to work for Google, also Yahoo, eBay Inc. And so I've seen kind of the trends change in the Valley. I'm also from San Jose, which is rare to meet people from the Bay, still in the Bay.
That's right.
So I have
Yes,
a kind of
Bay.
perspective on that. We have Bay people still in here? Anybody from the Bay Area?
That's right.
All right.
Here, born and raised.
So I have the fun job of figuring out kind of how we can live our values every day at PayPal, and inclusion is one of the 4 values we have. So we have wellness, inclusion, collaboration, and innovation. And so diversity can sit on top of inclusion as opposed to being some diversity program that sits off in the corner in HR.
Nice. You're a real inclusionist, right?
I'm an inclusionist.
Everybody in here is an inclusionist, right? Everybody changed their LinkedIn profiles? Hit it, Dom.
So I'm Dom. I work for a company called Twilio. I work on the infrastructure and security teams there. I'm probably the only one on this panel who has not had a full career in D&I work. I'm actually, I've been doing this on the side as a part of my, just a passion project. And it's been at Twilio, about 3 years in, I've been at Twilio, and we started this as an email, kind of chatting about diversity trends, and it's now grown into this full-blown diversity program and an inclusion program, and it's been a lot of fun to help lead that, and I'm actually looking forward to hiring somebody to fully take that position on and kind of take what we've grown as a grassroots effort and make it into a full-fledged program. So Twilio is hiring. I'm going to say that right now.
Your candidate might be out there. Your next head of diversity and inclusion is probably sitting here right now.
I hope so. I really do. It'd be a lot of fun.
Hey guys, you guys all remember me, crazy lady from this morning, Rachel Williams, head of diversity and inclusion at Yelp. I am going to talk less about me because this is not about me or Yelp, but I will say Yelp is always hiring as well. Use the app and keep a sister employed. And now I'm going to turn it over to my friend over here.
Hey everyone, I'm Aubrey Blanche, and I am the head of diversity and inclusion at Atlassian. Snaps for Jira. Anyone? No?
Yeah,
cool.
Sure.
Rachel stole my line. We're also always hiring. Let me know. I have jobs. You seem awesome. But I am Atlassian's first hire into the focus on diversity and inclusion, and I started about 1.5 years ago. So we've been building out our sort of an internationally focused diversity program, a little bit different than some of our peers in that we're not an American company. And so we kind of started off thinking about it intersectionally, and I'm really interested in those kinds of issues too, and kind of thrilled to be on stage with all of these wonderful people.
Cool. Great. And hi, everybody. I'm Leanse, and I have worked in technology since 1981. Currently, I work as a coach and advisor to early-stage technology teams, and I also teach design thinking and organizational development at Stanford through the Continuing Studies program. And I have a commitment for the last 6 years to having at least 50% of underrepresented groups as my coaching clients and as the companies in my advisory portfolio.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Cool, thanks. Well, I just want to point out before somebody else points it out and tweets about it, this is a diverse panel, but not completely inclusive because we're missing a few folks, a few genders. So, my bad, next year. So, the conversation in tech, I would say new tech companies, started about 5 or so years ago, right, LaFawn? You think, yeah, sort of, a little bit. Thanks Jesse Jackson for writing some letters and a few other folks getting this conversation restarted in new tech companies. How do you think the conversation's changed over the last few years? Anybody want to jump in there?
I mean, I'm full of opinions. I think, always. I think that sort of, right, we all know the big smashing moment was when Google kind of said, here are our numbers. But I really like to think that we're actually moving the conversation past those numbers, or at least past the corporate level diversity statistics. Because what I always say, right, representation does not equal diversity. I can hire and make 10% of my workforce African American, but I put them all in the same department, and they're not actually interacting in my business. That's not actually diversity. I'm not actually approaching inclusion, and I'm probably not also getting the business benefits of that diversity. So I've seen, and I think even diversity reports are starting to evolve to focus on more metrics, being more nuanced. We actually release our team level statistics. You can check them out online, but I'm really excited that companies seem to be kind of pushing forward and be thinking about what they're measuring more than just counting people, which is a huge revolution.
Yeah, I mean, right, those numbers were all dictated by the EEOC, and they're all very, non-white, Hispanic, and like, who made this stuff up? And it doesn't encounter, intersectionality, which we always talk about, the whole human, right? Don't know if you're LGBTQ, if you're mixed race, like all of these things. Yeah. Disabled, like, so I would love to see those.
Do we all know what intersectionality means in its simplest form? See a lot of heads yes, some no.
Some no.
It means we're layered, right? So say your company has a program for women in leadership. That's great, but I actually identify with being a black woman first. Mm-hmm. So you're discounting part of my identity. It just means you have layers. Intersectionality is how we're all connected and how we all have different layers.
We're all intersectionalists too. Might want to add that to your LinkedIn profiles. Ellen, you had something.
Yeah, one thing I'd love to add about the last few years in diversity is how brain science is showing us that diversity really is what it takes to build excellence in any sort of company, business, or any sort of goal-oriented opportunity. What bringing different voices to the table does is it allows us to slip out of or move out of our routine code that we run in the System 1 parts of our brains, the System 1 sorts of thinking, and into the much more generative, creative, and innovative System 2 thinking where great ideas really form. In fact, I was speaking with Danny back there before we all came out. He's at Autodesk, and he was saying that they're looking to elevate respectful conflict. He had a much better term, which I wish that I remember. I'm going to have to ask him for it later, but really bringing different people together and having techniques that actually let people conflict with each other based on different experiences, perspectives, and backgrounds is really what allows the best ideas to rise. So I love seeing that elevate in the tech conversation, but it's not happening fast or fully enough.
Yep.
Also, I want to reference back to the awesome talk you just gave, but I think we're actually starting to talk about this sort of elephant in the room as we've been really focused on gender and race, which are important, but like also ageism is a thing.
Yeah.
And it's a really rampant problem in tech, and so I love that you addressed it, but it's also, we released it, I know that GitHub also released an age breakdown of their workforce, so we're starting to think past the EEO categories, which is great.
Right.
There's so many other categories.
Right, I'm a threefer for sure.
Yes, diversity.
Yes,
yeah?
hashtag threefer. So what I'm hearing is that we're moving away from the numbers, probably moving more to being more inclusive, but what about more programs around inclusivity? Anybody doing anything interesting in their companies?
So it's hard to talk about what the first wave of tech or the older companies are doing or how I've visioned them because I was a lot younger then. But from what I understand, and
millennial,
I'm a baby, but for when we were talking backstage and we had this discussion about what the differences were because I wanted to be knowledgeable. And one of the things that we kind of talked about was how before it was a lot of reactive work. It was just responding to things and being like, okay, we're either being sued or we are being called out on these things, and we're going to be responsive. Yeah. But now it's not only is it proactive, it's proactive, and a lot of it is from the grassroots. So at Twilio, we started this with 2 engineers who were sitting at lunch or having coffee one day, and it turned into an email that added everybody else in R&D, and then we turned it into this is a really long email, let's sit down and have a roundtable. And what we thought was just going to have the people from, like the people who identified as female in R&D sit down in a room and kind of talk about this. Actually, it turned out that hiring managers were there, engineering managers were there, people from finance came, the CEO came, and it got to the point where I was like, I did not order enough pizza. And
meeting over.
Yeah, meeting's over, we're done, no more pizza. But it was so cool to see how passionate people were, because it was no longer about how am I going to get my career forward? I want to make sure that the doors are open for me. People are coming in and saying, you know what? I want to make sure that the doors are open for the future, whether it's my children, my siblings, people that I've taught in the past, or I interact with on a daily basis. And I think that grassroots effort and coming from like the bottom up has an entirely different effect and a different feel to it than if a company came in and was just like, hey, y'all, we just hired a consultant, and we're just going to have all the diversity stuff be on just them. And then that checks us off. It's completely different. I mean, your employees will hold you accountable. Yeah. And it's an amazing feeling.
So I Generation X. But I think there is a big difference in the approach of companies now, where startups used to really focus on just the product, getting things out the door, making money, and now it seems like there's a little bit of a shift where startups kind of on the ground floor are starting to think about this before they become 10,000 employees, 20,000 employees. And I think it does start from a grassroots effort with a lot of employees saying this is important to us, but also having that leadership, that's important too. You have to have that, otherwise your grassroots kind of fizzles out, right? There's a lot of efforts that happen, but that can only go so far without your leaders also having that same passion and understanding and making sure that they get not only diversity for numbers' sake, but inclusion, because if you don't have an inclusive work environment, diversity is not going to stay.
Right.
We can recruit all the diversity candidates we want that comes in the door. They're not going to stay if it's not an environment that is actually conducive to growing a career there, to an environment that they want to be in.
One of the things that we've been doing at Yelp, got to talk about it, I do work there, is that, there was a report that came out, you're right, inclusion is kind of the first thing any company I think should work on before going out and seeking the diversity. You want to prepare the company for and creating a welcoming environment, prepare the hiring managers to be able to talk intelligently about cultural things that go on. And so I have been using, and any of the employee resource groups leaders here know, I've been using our employee resource groups to really create kind of little communities where people can interact with folks that they wouldn't normally interact with. Every single one of us in this room goes back home and on the weekends and interact with people that look like ourselves, right? Most of our own networks are 80% like us. And so I figure, if you're going to be at work 40 to 50 hours, at some point in that day, you should interact with somebody that you wouldn't normally interact with, and I'm going to be the curator of that interaction and use the employee resource groups to do that. They don't know they're working for me, but they're working for me and doing those things. So that's kind of how we've been doing it, giving people an interaction with someone they would normally have an interaction with, so they can start to create that empathy muscle, start to, get in there.
I love hearing you talk about that, because that is design thinking. You have a specific intention in mind.
Look at me.
And you're looking to create. Really? I mean, we could do the lecture right here, right? But that is the first step to intentional design and these are the hacks that really create a difference in people. And what I love about what you said, Rachel, is, saying we're going to have a diversity program, right? Diversity program is such a subset of what this opportunity really is.
Totally.
Because if you're going to do this, there's never going to be really that full integration that leads to success. It's going to be a checklist type of thing.
Right.
Kind of the difference between, say, people talk about culture at a company versus perks. Everybody knows the difference between culture and perks, right? Big difference, right? And really,
someone said no.
Yeah. Oh, what culture is. So perks, those are the little
benefits,
bags of gummy bears
the food,
in the snack room. That's a perk.
massages.
Right? That's the massage or whatever it is, or the offsite. These are perks. Culture is really why you do that. It's really to create that environment that lets people be the best they can be in alignment with the values that your company
values of the
believes
company.
in. Values, values. And when values drive a true inclusion program and it really integrates people and allows them to bring out the best in each other, that is when you get the benefits that we're all reaching for. It's not going to happen with a checklist and, oh, look, now, I mean, it's like some company could hire someone like me and it could skew their entire media image, But I mean, really, there's value in that. But it's not going to do anything unless the intention for doing that is values driven.
That's right.
That's where we get an effect. And by the way, that is true with all forms of inclusion. And then we get the ability to bring out the best in each other and really create impact.
Yeah. LaFawn, you mentioned something earlier, which has been on my mind as another trend that seems to be happening right now, is a lot of C-suite CEOs are coming out and speaking out, tweeting about Black Lives Matter, tweeting about their support for LGBTQ.
Yeah.
Good thing, bad thing, helpful
Necessary
for the
thing.
Necessary thing.
Necessary thing. The conversation has to happen. And more people, especially generationally, want to be a part of a purpose-driven company.
That's true.
And if you don't have a CEO or your C-suite or leadership who's willing to have the conversation, even if they don't have all the answers, because I don't think any of us have all the answers, otherwise we wouldn't be up here and we wouldn't be having conferences
Job
like this.
security.
Right. Would love to work ourselves out of a job. But I think more and more CEOs coming out and taking a stand and kind of being activists in a way, or just saying, I'm human and I get it. I know I run a company, I know we're a business, I know we're supposed to make money, but we're human.
Yeah.
Right.
And some of these things that are happening in our society are not okay, some of the things that are happening around the world are not okay.
Right.
And sometimes it's great just that some of these CEOs and other leaders are just saying that. I understand that as a company, we are people, and it is affecting you all in this way. It is affecting me in this way. And I don't have all the answers, but I think it starts there.
I think that there are two ways that C-suite, and I think you touched on both of them, that C-suite can be really, really beneficial and absolutely necessary. And one is to help be that sounding board, because your voice only goes so far. Whether it's your voice as an engineer, your voice as a D&I person, your voice can only go so far. And your CEO should be your biggest loudspeaker and come in full support. And the other side is coming in full support internally. So just like you were saying, having someone come around and say, I understand, this is hard. One of plenty of examples is particularly when Orlando happened. People were hurting. People didn't know how to process their feelings. And people didn't know who to turn to. And so a couple of us are actually in this in an email group where we kind of learn from each other, and everyone was sharing that their CEOs had come out and said, this is a really hard time. This is something that happened, and we don't want to ignore it. And having that acknowledgement, having somebody know that this is not a normal, hey, how's your weekend? Or hey, happy Monday. It's not a happy Monday. People were hurting, and this is valid for a whole bunch of other issues as well. But having somebody kind of understand and and be there for you and kind of make that a public announcement to the company is amazing. And on the subject of invisible minorities, there's something to be said if your company does something for Veterans Day. That is a minority that we don't talk about a lot, and one that is not easy to talk about because you don't know what someone went through. And so if you have Veterans Day, have your CEO do a thank you or acknowledge that it was a day that we take aside to thank people. It's things like that, doing it internally and also doing it externally that make a difference. And it makes people want to not only join your company, but makes people want to stay in your company because they feel like the CEO invested in you as well.
Yeah. It sets the tone, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, now we gotta go.
I'm gonna stay on topic. We're here. Watch this. So one of the other trends that I'm loving right now, there you go,
Nice.
is like white male allies is like the coolest new trend. Yeah.
Yes.
Look at
White male
back.
sponsorship.
It's so important. And we talk about CEOs. Like, let's be real. We're mostly talking about white men. in the Valley. That's just a fact. But you're starting to see sort of this separation of CEOs who are willing to say something. And obviously, we should always couple voice with action. But at the end of the day, even saying something is such a radical departure from business as usual in the Valley, and such a strong sense of behavioral modeling, right? Because it's really great, me as the head of diversity, to be like, you need to care about it. But at the end of the day, like, I'm LGBT and Latina and a woman, so like, people have been socialized to ignore my voice. And so when my CEO says, well, I don't want to say, I'm like, just say what I said, because someone else is going to listen to you, and they say yes, like, I'm going to retweet you. I'm going to actually listen to you and learn, and then take that message for you to the people who are going to hear me speak. That is so powerful. And I'm seeing it happen not just at the leadership level. I was just telling someone backstage that I had this really amazing moment in a candidate interview last week, and it happened like 2 months ago. But so I do a lot of interviewing, but I never tell anyone what my job is before they meet me, because it freaks like majority group people out, and then other people think they're being tokenized, and it's just all stressful. But I actually had a man who I know because we hired him, who identifies as white, straight, cisgendered, said, I really want to know what you're doing around diversity and inclusion, because it's really important to me that I join a company that cares about that. And so I think that's the other thing is as we talk about this diversity and inclusion, it's like, oh great, we're going to attract more underrepresented minorities. You're also going to attract people from majority groups that have a strong empathetic orientation to others, which is what makes strong teams. Google did all the research for us. Turns out kindness is actually the thing that makes teams function. So that is the other thing I want to say is, like, I'm seeing it both at the leadership level and to those loud voices, and the little things that are happening day to day, and those allies, and we need to say, like, awesome, keep with us, let me give you a cookie, now take the next step and learn the next thing. And so I'm seeing this shift that's really, really cool.
Yes.
I'd love to build upon what each of you had said, and I think I'm going to double down, and I think especially for people who are white, and I am white, I think we have a responsibility to stretch our own comfort zone and catalyze others to do the same. So if I were considering a coaching client or even a company that I would advise, and certainly we talk about this in my classroom settings, but I will actually say, what are you doing to stretch your comfort zone and think differently about the people you hide? What are the specific actions you take to keep from locking yourself in an echo chamber? Because if you're locking yourself in an echo chamber, your business is not going to be good enough for the standards I want it to reach. And so really creating that sort of healthy discomfort, or there's a really cool coach named Kimball Scott talks about radical candor, about talking about this very uncomfortable topic and saying the old way is over. And if you are stuck to that old way, you are a dinosaur. And I'm not wasting my time with a dinosaur, but I'm really interested in companies that are ready to think different, stretch themselves to new levels of expectations of themselves, and bring more voices together in ways that allow the good to rise. Then we have something to talk about.
Nice. Yeah, I like it.
That's a trend too, I think.
What's that?
I think that's a trend as well, right? Is people feeling like they can bring more their authentic self to work. I will not say bring your whole selves to work. I don't believe that. You guys don't need to know all my business. However,
that's true.
Thank you.
I don't want to know.
One on Saturday night.
I do believe in bringing your best self to work and bringing your authentic self to work. And I've said this in other forums. Being my authentic self has never worked against me. Never, ever worked against me. There might be opportunities that I did not get because I was my authentic self, but I don't know about them, so they weren't for me. So I don't care. But I think that's what changes the conversation. I have had very real conversations with my colleagues. I am a black woman. I am a mother of a 17-year-old black young man. I come to work with different thoughts and fears than a lot of my colleagues do. I go to sleep with those fears. I wake up with the same. That's right. And I was able to tell my colleagues, you know, sometimes on a Tuesday, I'm not going to be here for it. Right? I may be worried about some things and you don't understand where I'm coming from because you don't have to have those same perceptions and those same ideas. But I was able to talk to them about it so that they understood. They had no idea because they don't have to go through the same thing that I am right now. That alone, having the conversation, them saying, you know what, we didn't know, thank you for telling us, now at least I feel like I can be even more authentic with my team. Now I feel like I can bring more of my authentic self to work because I let them know this is what I'm going through. And I think that's a new trend as well, that we're able to have more of a voice to say, things are different. It's not just about business.
Yeah.
I'm a person, and I do come with a lot of things.
Things are complex. Speaking of fears, just want to switch gears a little bit. I feel like this political season is dredging up a lot of fear for me. I don't know if it is for anybody else. It feels like the tale of two cities, the best of times and the worst of times, right? We have a female candidate and we have that other orange person. And there's been a lot of conversations internally. It's been stirring up a lot of conversation internally that, about race, about religion, about gender, about all of this. And a lot of that stuff gets funneled to me and I'm like, I don't know what to say. Anybody else experiencing that?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
I was going to say, Rachel, I'm about to tell people things that we have said in private, so sorry.
Uh-oh, wait a minute.
No, but Rachel and I were talking about sort of what's the changing role of the head of D&I, and I believe you said I am both an organizational strategist and I'm a therapist, and I'm like just walking around throwing empathy everywhere. That was a direct quote.
It was.
But it's true, and that and I think one of the things that I've been great with our leadership team is we accept and we think about the ways that the outside, like Atlassian doesn't exist in a vacuum. We believe in collaboration as a company, but that means that we are also starting to wrestle, both at the leadership and the individual level, with what is bringing your authentic self to work means. It means that we don't come to Atlassian with equal opportunities, perspectives, or chances to focus sometimes, and how do we recognize that? And the big thing that we've been coaching right now is it actually doesn't have to be about politics, right? Because we all have a lot of feelings and thoughts about that.
Yeah.
Y'all can probably guess mine. But we say it's not about that. It's not about whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat or conservative or liberal. It's, hey, I'm here for you as a person. And I recognize that you might be hurting or you might be struggling, or maybe you're not, but the door's open and I'm here for you. And we can do that as colleagues, kind of the Michelle Obama, like we're going high, we're going over it.
Right.
We're talking about the fact that we're all humans, we're all at this company, we care about our values and our mission. And so let's set the politics aside, but recognize your very real experiences, like living in the world right now.
Yeah.
I'm with you, and I think it's important to remember psychological safety is a requirement in the workplace.
Yeah.
And often the agenda behind the things that are brought up or talked about is what can disrupt psychological safety even more than the actual content.
Right.
So if we look at something, and I'm being very mindful of my words here because I could be this close to sort of going off on some of the things happening in the election, and it probably wouldn't. Yeah.
All right, my bad. All of us, my bad.
But
Stepped on a
yes,
dump.
if we have a need to prove something or to be right about something, and that is the agenda we bring, we are going to disrupt the atmosphere of psychological safety, and that is going to cause problems. So cultures that can be inclusive of different opinions, different mindsets, while still helping guide healthy boundaries around the way we bring these things in, and teaching people even the skills to say, I'm out, this probably isn't a discussion I should have, just like we might in our personal lives, right?
Absolutely.
That's a very healthy and inclusive thing to do.
Yeah, I think there's something to being able to have an environment where you can have a healthy debate as well.
Yep.
Yes.
And this isn't just about politics, because we all know that can get a little can go left. But being able to have healthy debate about your culture, being able to have a healthy debate about a product, being able to have a healthy debate about your team and the way you work. I mean, you should be able to have a healthy debate without being scared to say something, without being worried that someoe's going to take one of the words and be like, oh my God, I feel like this is,
Or retaliation.
yeah, an unsafe work environment, and then you got HR all over the place.
Yep.
So there's something cultural about that as well, being able to kind of sit down and just talk. I don't have to have the same opinion as you, but we still should be able to have respectful conversation.
But for us, it's interesting because I learned that. I mean, I guess I learned that on the job as well, but I learned that in engineering, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to not want to put that in the sprint. It's okay not to do these things. And then I'm on a team of mostly men. And
What?
I'm an engineer, but I am, and they're some of the best allies that I've ever had. Where if they notice that I haven't talked in a little bit, they'd ask like, "Hey, you haven't said anything. Do you have any input on this?" And they actually stop. Like, you ever see an engineer stop typing to listen to you? It's super powerful. And it's like, it started in my engineering team, but it started to make me feel more comfortable outside of just my team and feel like I can actually express these things and I can disagree on things that are not engineering related and feel like my disagreement isn't a personal attack on you, it's not a personal attack on me, but it's a disagreement. And it's not easy to foster that type of environment. Yep. But once you do, if you start small, if you start large, it doesn't matter, but once you foster that type of environment, you'll be really surprised on whose voice comes out that didn't think that their voice mattered before.
Yep.
Cool. I'm going to switch gears just a whole lot. So another trend that I've been noticing is a lot of technology has come along to support our D&I efforts. We've got Blendor, we've got interviewing.io, we've got Jopwell, we've got
Unitive.
Yeah, we've got a lot.
Yeah.
Anybody using anything that's been helpful in mitigating bias and all that good stuff?
Not using per se, but one thing that really hit me hard and hit me well was when Slack did the one brown hand. That was such. Are people familiar with that? When there was an icon that they shipped for the API, and rather than having it be the usual, was it a thumbs up? I think it was a thumbs up.
I think it was a thumbs up.
Rather than being usual, yellow or white.
Where's Leslie?
All of the, Leslie's here. I think it was all of the hand gestures.
It was such a beautiful, proactive and powerful message. And I've worked with a couple of companies since then that have been, how will we design our website and sort of coming with an ideology that reflects their values and cultures. And we've really followed that example to make sure that the header photos that we show on the website are almost aggressively diverse with all kinds of different people. And it's amazing because, when white people look at these, they notice that it's a nice website, right? They don't really notice that it's, wow, I only saw one person who looks like me. It sort of slips by. But when people
with
different backgrounds, right? What did you say?
It's called privilege.
It's all yeah, right?
Don't even notice that nobody.
But it's kind of
so
awesome
nice.
that they don't notice. They say, oh, nice website, right? But people who don't feel as recognized by the tech industry, they form an affinity with that company in a way that advantages the company. Everybody wins.
Totally.
I was going to say, this is my favorite story. Everyone knows this. Is we did a little, from a marketing point of view, our brand team just wanted to make our icons more inclusive. And so one of the things we added was cultural elements, we have little icons, we call them meeples. But we added a hijabi meeple. A hijabi meeple.
Oh, nice.
And so I actually wrote a blog post about something else, made a little group of people, included the hijabi meeple, and I've gotten more feedback on Muslim women really excited that there's a hijabi meeple in tech advertising than anyone cared about a word that I wrote on that blog.
That's amazing. Boss.
I didn't do it. Actually, the amazing thing is that was my designers. And I see little things like that, and we actually invested really aggressively in bringing diversity into our marketing teams, and that kind of happened magically, which is cool. But back to your tech question.
Yeah, hello.
We're big lovers of Textio at Atlassian. Hi, Kieran. But we actually use it for our job ads, so it's really great. It surfaces both high-impact language and structure, but also gender bias. So we've actually been able to remove the male-gendered language from our job ads, and that's something we're continuously doing. And magically, we have more female applicants.
Like we're looking for a rock star?
Yeah.
Ninja.
A ninja.
Which the thing about rock stars is they don't show up work till 11, and I need someone that's going to show up when their team has meetings.
And not trash the hotel room.
Right? Like hotel rooms are expensive. But the thing that I've actually really loved about tools like Textio, there are a lot of them out there, is that it starts with job ads. That's sort of the wedge that gets it in. But what it's actually doing is retraining people's behavior and thought processes. So the people that are on hiring teams and interacting with this and thinking about their job ads are now thinking about the language that they're using in other parts of work and how it impacts the people around them.
Yeah.
So it can seem like a small use case, but the amount of cultural and awareness and behavioral change that you can get from those tiny little interventions are huge.
Yep.
And they're things that you don't need a head of diversity to try, right?
Yay, something we don't have to do.
I think it's also really cool. It's also a way to actually remove bias, right? So big trend, unconscious bias, right? I get it.
I'm so tired.
I get it.
Bias.
I get it.
It's racism. It's sexism. Stop calling it unconscious bias.
It's all bias isn't bad. A lion came in here right now. Nobody's going to go pet the kitty.
That's true.
However, I think you have to systematically remove bias. So people can be trained and learn about their own bias. So it takes it from unconscious to conscious. Doesn't mean they're going to change it. It means they're aware of it, which is great. But I think when you're looking at hiring and promotion and developing people and recognizing them and all that kind of good stuff, I think you systematically have to remove bias. I don't think that's because you have rolled out unconscious bias to every employee and everybody knows, and so all of a sudden magically you're not going to have any bias in your hiring process. I don't think that it can stop there. Yeah. And that's where this trend of unconscious bias, while I think good, there has to be more. And so a lot of these technologies, I think, are seeking to, in a systematic way, remove bias from processes, recognizing words, whether they're male or female words, or recognizing that you have X amount of applicants coming in and they're all falling apart at the phone screen stage. It's just a way to systematically remove bias in a way that we as humans, we can't move that fast. We can't change our bias that quickly.
I wish.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
No, I was like, it's like, we call ours an unconscious bias mitigation program. Step one of which is like training. And then it's also things like this year we actually moved so that direct reports and managers do their assessments at the same time, because we know that women and women and anyone who identifies as an additional or other minority group are less likely to rate themselves highly than their majority group counterparts. And we found that managers could anchor on those ratings, which could produce a skew we didn't want, which is really easy. It turns out that by getting people to do their assessments at the same time, it both removes that bias, shortens the entire review cycle, which is less pain for everyone, and it's just more efficient. So a lot of the things we're talking about to remove bias or promote inclusion are actually just smart business practices. Right. Like, we don't do them because of diversity. It helps diversity, and that's amazing. But we do them because it's good for the company.
Nice. Yeah. Well, we only got a couple more minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna be quick about it.
All right, be quick about it.
Well, I'm just saying that the theme that we've all kind of been talking about here is, while those programs and they're great and they are helping systematically move those biases, your best tools are educated employees. And I can say that because Twilio...
So glad you said that now.
I mean, I'm glad that you are all here, but there's a difference between, really knowing what an unconscious bias is or being an ally and being an active ally, being a passive ally and being an active ally. And there's a difference in how you set the tone in your meetings, if you are educated in that space or not. For example, there's a lot of invisible minorities. One of the ones that come to mind right now is English as a first language. That's tough. You ever have English is not your first language and you are in a room full of Americans? Right. We speak fast. That is amazing that it can pick up how fast we talk.
I know, right?
Right?
Yeah.
But for somebody else, they have to translate something in their head and translate back. And by the time that they do, we've moved on. We're on a new topic. And it silences their voice. Yeah. And so the VP of engineering, who English isn't his first language, actually brought that up in a meeting, and he started implementing a rule. He was just like, look, if you haven't spoken 3 times in a meeting, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to speak. If you've spoken 3 times in a meeting, I'm gonna ask you to sit back and start to listen.
Nice.
And that's really important. Having that from the top down was really important. Having my manager, when we're in a sprint planning meeting, or I'm in any meeting at all, implement I call it the no Kanye rule, which means you do not interrupt.
Stop it.
Leave Kanye out of this.
Nobody wants to be called Kanye. But
being his authentic self.
Having
he doesn't need to bring his whole self.
Not his whole self.
He doesn't. We don't need that.
But it's having somebody else. I guess for all of us, we can say this. This work is tiring. This work is something that we do a lot, and it has to do with our identities, it has to do with our passions, and it's tiring. And the moment you have somebody else in the room be like, don't talk over her. She doesn't have to be the one to take the notes.
Right.
You don't know what that person is going through. The moment you have someone else help and speak and echo your voice and help elevate it means so much. And so everything that you've learned here, whether it's from our panel or anywhere else, I definitely encourage you to bring that back. Do a small presentation, do a tech talk, do a lunchroom talk at your companies. and help people understand that this is something that they don't need to hire somebody for. They need to have everybody be involved.
Wait a minute.
I mean, yes, you do, but like I'm still hiring. But like,
It's like, what?
What do we chop liver up here? Come on.
we need help in this work. You know?
Yes, we do.
Well,
Can't do it on our own.
Dom already started what I was going to ask each of you to do, which is just kind of talk about one takeaway you would want people here to do, or to help with our efforts.
Okay. So, as Dom mentioned, we can't do this by ourselves. So, I think understanding is good. Speaking up is better, but acting is the best thing that you can do.
Yeah.
I pretty much already said mine, but you can come and see us if you're looking for a job. Twilio is hiring.
And scene. Okay, so I would say I really would love for white males to use their power, their privilege, and their position on behalf of someone else who does not look like them. So that is my one thing. If you know a white male, tell him to go and help some brown person, some disabled person, anybody else. Just tell them to help.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in the power of networks, so I actually want everyone here to commit to going and looking at your LinkedIn and looking at your Twitter and committing that in 365 days, you will have a racially and gender balanced networks. If you are a minority, yeah, right? So this is actually a thing. If you are a white man and you connect with me on LinkedIn, I will not accept you until I have someone with a minority identity that also asks me for a connection. And that's because so much of my network was skewed in one direction. And my Twitter is actually intentionally diverse, so I expose myself to different types of people.
I'm accepting white
But you
men.
can all do that, and it's fun. You can literally Google like black women in AI to follow on Twitter, and you will get lists. People have made them use them.
That's true, yeah.
Like, it's awesome.
We're on a couple of those lists.
Now you know my secrets about what I Google.
I'm going to do a big plus one to that, and I started that process about a year ago, and it has so changed the tone of information that I get, and all for the better. It's really given me like advantages I couldn't have gotten anywhere else. The thing that I would recommend would be to become very curious about ourselves and our own biases. So having that sort of courage and radical candor with ourselves that says, what if I were wrong about this? What assumptions or privileges am I bringing to this table that I'd be better off leaving at the door? How can I change my old habits so that I think more inclusively and with more open-mindedness about what the best outcome might be here? I think the more all of us turn that into ourselves, we want it from everyone else. Let's begin by being the change we want to see in the world. Turn that into ourselves and enjoy the incredible thing that happens as our minds begin to open and we start to see a fuller and better picture, as simply as asking those questions to ourselves.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank my fellow Real Talk members and talk show hosts. I want to thank all of you for being here, inclusionists. It's time to go drink. Let's get down. Woo!
I think we have to hang out with Wayne and Melinda for a second.
No.
No?
No. We're supposed to go.
We done?
Yeah, we're out of here.
Cool.
Peace, everybody.
Yes.